Okay, so during our last lecture, okay, we have looked at up until blood pressure. Okay, you have to know the definition for blood pressure. What is systolic pressure, diastolic pressure, what is a pulse, okay? And then from the graph, you should be able to relate, okay, between the difference, okay, in the blood pressure that the blood flows, okay, in the aorta, artery, arterioles, capillaries, venous, vein, and also vena cava. So as you can see from the graphs, you can see that the blood that flows in the aorta will have an obvious reading of systolic and diastolic pressure, because the blood that flows in the aorta is just come out or pump out of the heart. Obviously the pressure would be high, so the normal systolic pressure will be 120, and the diastolic pressure is about 90, okay, 90. So the reading will be 120 over 90. So this is the blood pressure of blood in the blood vessels, okay, in the blood vessels. So as the blood flows from aorta into arteries, into arterioles, capillaries, venules, veins, vena cava, as you can see, the blood pressure will slowly decrease, and you will see that there is a sharp decline, okay, in the blood pressure as the blood flows in the capillary beds, okay. So as blood flows in the arterioles and into capillaries, the blood vessels will branch into many blood capillaries. So that therefore the blood velocity and also the blood pressure will drop. So this is especially crucial to allow the exchange of materials such as respiratory gas, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and also nutrients and also waste to be exchanged, okay, between body cells and also the blood in the blood capillaries, okay. So as the blood vessels merge into venules, veins, and also vena cava, you can see that the blood pressure drops even further, okay. So this is because the blood has traveled far from the heart, and obviously the blood pressure will drop. And so therefore when the blood flows in the vein will have valves, okay. So this is to prevent the backflow of blood as the blood flows with low blood pressure and low blood velocity. So from this diagram, it shows you the usual, okay, the usual place that you can detect pulse, okay, by detecting the pulse at the carotid artery, at the branchial artery, and also at the radial artery, okay. So you have other more arteries that are located elsewhere in your body, okay, but these three are the most common artery to detect your pulse rate, okay. So carotid, radial, and also branchial artery, okay. So three types of arteries can be found. The radial artery lies, okay, near the outer border of the palm side of the wrist, okay. So you can detect that. You have detected the atrial artery using during your experiment 4, okay. And then carotid artery located on either side of the trachea and of the neck, okay. And then the branchial artery is located dekat atas pelipat lengan tu, okay. Okay, so next, okay, so this is what we are going to look at today, which is an instrument, okay, which is used to detect or measure, okay, measure blood pressure, which is sphygmomanometer. So you should know how to spell this term correctly, okay, sphygmomanometer, because previous year's question they have asked, okay, on the equipment used to measure blood pressure, Okay, so make sure you know how to spell sphygmomanometer correctly. Okay, so this is the equipment. Okay, so it has here is the meter to measure the blood pressure. So kenapa, why is the bacaan, why is the reading is in millimeter mercury? Because inside it has liquid, which is mercury. Okay, so millimeter mercury. All right, so and then it has cuff. Okay, that you have to wrap your arm, okay, your upper arm with the cuff. So before you wrap the cuff, okay, around your arm, so make sure that you push out all the air out of the cuff before you use, okay, before you wrap the cuff around the arm. Okay, and then it has a bulb where you can press the bulb to inflate, okay, to inflate the cuff, okay, to inflate the cuff. So when the cuff is inflated, it exerts, okay, it exerts pressure against the blood vessels, okay, the artery that runs down your arm. Okay, so first of all, inflate the cuff. Okay, inflate the cuff until the pressure closes the artery, which is the branchial artery. So initially, before you wrap the cuff around your upper arm, you have to use these two fingers, okay, these two fingers, to detect the location of your branchial artery. So this is, tak nampak pula dalam saya punya ni, okay. So just you can also do it in front of your computer, okay. So dua jari ni letak dekat awak punya atas pelipat siku tu, kan, and then you detect whether there is a pulse there. So that is the branchial artery. So after you have detected the branchial artery, so you just wrap the cuff around the upper part, and then you still have to know where exactly is the pulse, so that you can place stethoscope, okay, on top of it. Okay, so the stethoscope used to hear the pulse, okay, to hear the pulse. So nanti kita akan tengoklah seterusnya kenapa perlunya letak stethoscope tu. So so it says here, after you have inflated the cuff, so this is to exert pressure. Okay, so the pressure exerted by the cuff exceeds the pressure in the artery. So the blood that flows in the artery, okay, the pressure is 120 millimeter mercury. So this is the diastolic pressure. So you want to pump the cuff, you have to press this bulb, the black bulb here, press until the cuff is inflated, and the reading here, it exceeds the reading 120. It exceeds, if I'm not mistaken, you can reach up to 150 millimeter mercury. So the pressure is higher than the blood pressure in the blood vessel. So this will close the blood vessels and stop the flow of blood in the artery, in the branchial artery. Okay. So no blood flows past the cuff, so the branchial pulse cannot be heard. So how do you hear? How do you want to hear the pulse? The pulse, you use a stethoscope. So you place the stethoscope just here, okay. Just here, and then you will not hear any pulse rate. Bukan awak letak telinga awak kat situ So you use a stethoscope, okay. So and then so nampak ni, so you use a stethoscope, you place this portion of the stethoscope onto the place that you have detected the pulse rate, the branchial artery, the branchial artery. So and then what you do next is that you see here there is a valve, okay, valve here. You turn the valve slightly, slowly and slightly, and then the pressure inside the cuff will slowly be released. Okay, so the pressure will be released slowly, and then you will see that the meter will drop slowly. Okay, drop slowly, and at this point you want to detect the first sound. Okay, the first pulse sound. The first pulse sound. Okay. So allow the cuff to deflate gradually. So the pressure exerted by the cuff falls below that in the artery. So biarkan dia turun, kan? Buka valve ni secara perlahan-lahan, and then udara yang dekat dalam kat dalam pulse kat dalam cuff tu dia akan slowly keluar. Okay. So nanti pressure exerted by the cuff against the blood will slowly be released, and the blood will start to flow slowly. And at this point, you want to hear the first sound. Okay, the first sound. So this causes blood pulses into the forearm, generating sound that can be heard with the stethoscope. Okay, which is the Korotkov sound. Okay. So therefore, the systolic pressure is recorded as the first tapping sound is heard. Okay, the first tapping sound kena dengar, and at the same time you have to look at the meter here to detect the reading. Okay, the reading on the sphygmomanometer. So first sound dengar kat mana sound tu, dekat bacaan yang mana. Okay, so it should be around 120. So that is the systolic pressure. Okay, that is the systolic pressure. And then you let the air to be released of the cuff, and then the pressure will be released, and then the blood will flow as usual. And then as the blood flows, you want to detect the second reading, which is the diastolic reading. Okay, which is, it says here, allow the cuff to deflate further, so therefore the pressure is reduced further, the sound becomes louder. Okay, the first, teralih pula. Okay, so the pressure is reduced, so the sound becomes louder. So daripada sound yang pertama tu tadi, so as you release the pressure, so the sound, what is the sound? The pulse lah, the pulse sound. Okay, the pulse sound that you hear using the stethoscope, and then later the sound will disappear. Okay, the sound later will disappear when the artery is no longer constricted. So therefore the blood flows freely from the artery, through the artery. So the point that you cannot hear any more of the pulse sound, okay, the point that you cannot hear the pulse, so this is the sound, this is the diastolic pressure. Okay, so the reading should be around 70. Okay, 70. Tadi saya cakap. Okay, 70. Alright. Tadi saya cakap 90 kan. Tadi 90 untuk yang hypertension semalam. Sorry. So the point that you cannot hear any more of the pulse rate, okay, of the pulse sound, is the diastolic pressure. Is the measurement for the diastolic pressure. Okay. So the Korotkov sound on the next slide. Okay, so the first sound, okay, is clear. Okay, the first sound is clear tapping, considered as the systolic pressure. So the first sound that you hear will give the systolic pressure. Okay, so the second sound are the murmurs heard between systolic and diastolic pressures. So the third sound is a loud crisp tapping sound. Banyak sound dia. Okay, and then the fourth sound at pressure about 10 mm mercury above diastolic pressure were described as muffling or muting. Okay, so the fifth sound is silent as the cuff pressure drops below diastolic pressure. Okay, so okay, so that is the Korotkov sound. So dia ada phase dia lah, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 and phase 5. So the point here will give you the reading for the systolic pressure 120 millimeter mercury. This point here, okay, bila dah start nak slow down, or the point that you cannot hear any more of the tapping sound, so that is the diastolic pressure. Okay. Alright. So it says here a typical arterial blood pressure is in the a typical arterial blood pressure in the systemic circuit is 120. Okay. So bacaan yang normal untuk systolic pressure adalah 120 mm mercury and 70 for the diastolic pressure. So it is written as 120 over 70. Okay. So first you pump the cuff above 120, around 150, and then you let the pressure to be released from the cuff. And then at the point that you hear the first sound is the measurement for the systolic pressure. The point that you cannot, the point that the sounds disappear, it gives you the diastolic pressure. Okay. So blood pressure or the venous return. Okay. The blood pressure that involves the venous return. Okay. The blood that is returning from the systemic circuit back to the heart. Okay, so that is the venous return. Okay, so as you know, vein will have valves. Okay, vein will have valves. So once blood passes the valves, the blood cannot flow backward. So that is the function of valve, to prevent the backflow of blood in the vein, because the blood that flows in the vein, it flows with low velocity and also low blood pressure. Okay, so the valves keep the blood moving forward. Okay, moving forward towards the heart. Okay, so that is the function of the vein. It allows the blood to return back to the heart. So one factor that will also aid, okay, in the venous return. Ada satu slide missing ni, sekejap. Saya skip slides. Okay, saya skip slide. Tapi tak apa. Kita patah balik. Okay. Dia ke depan sangat. Alright. Back to the initial slide for the venous return. Alright. So it says here. Okay. So blood pressure in vein and venules is relatively slow. Okay, so the blood that flows in the vein flows with low blood pressure and also low velocity. So therefore, instead of blood pressure, several mechanisms will assist, okay, in the return of the venous blood to the heart. Okay, so these are the factors that you must remember, okay, that helps in the venous return, okay, that helps the blood to return back to the heart through the veins. So the first factor is the rhythmic contraction of smooth muscles in the wall of venules and vein. Kita belajar kan, blood vessels, artery and also vein, they have tunica media, tunica intima, media and also adventitia. So the middle layer of the blood vessels, which is the tunica media, okay, the tunica media, it is made up of smooth muscle that is able to contract and relax. Okay, contract and relax. So it causes the vein to vasoconstrict and also vasodilate. Okay. So the rhythmic contraction of smooth muscle in the wall of venules and vein aid in the movement of the blood. Okay, so and then the second factor is the presence of veins. Okay, veins that have larger diameter lumen. Okay, larger diameter lumen which offer relatively little resistance to blood flow. So the diameter of the lumen of the vein is bigger, so that more blood will flow and and poses less resistant to the flow of the blood. Okay, and then the third factor that helps in the venous return is the contraction of skeletal muscle. Okay, so your movement, okay, your movement, the movement of walking, moving your hands, okay, moving lah kan. So the contraction of skeletal muscle squeezes and restrict veins. Okay, so this causes the blood to move towards the heart. So it is, sebab itulah kita tak boleh nak duduk static saja kan. So you will feel very tired kan. So you need to increase your blood circulation. So this will cause more contraction of the skeletal muscle and helps the blood to return back to the heart. Okay, so this causes the blood to move towards the heart. So this is why if you sit or stand too long, okay, the lack of muscular activity may cause your feet to swell and as blood pools in the vein. So kita tak boleh nak duduk je 24 jam baring tergolek macam tu kan. Kena bergerak kan, kena bergerak. Okay, kena bergerak. So and this will so you have to increase your blood circulation through increase activity, okay, movement. Okay, so as you can see here, is a diagram, two diagrams showing the effects of contraction of skeletal muscle. So this is the skeletal muscle that contracts and pushes the blood towards the heart. Okay, so that passes through the valve as well. So if the skeletal muscle relaxes, as you can see, that once the blood passes through the valve will close and then prevent the backflow of the blood. Okay, so it says here, contracted skeletal muscle pushes blood past the open valve. So as the skeletal muscle relaxes, so the valve will close and prevent the blood from flowing backward. Okay, so and then the next factor, ini yang slide tadi lah, is the presence of valve in the veins. So the presence of valve in the veins is to prevent the backflow of blood. Okay, the backflow of blood and causes the blood to move forward towards the heart. Okay, and then the last factor that helps in the venous return is the respiratory movement. Okay, respiratory movement. So during inhalation, awak tarik nafas panjang kan, inhale. So this will thoracic pressure falls. Okay, so if you inhale, obviously the volume in the thoracic cavity increase. Awak belajar fizik kan, volume increase. Apa jadi kat pressure inside the thoracic cavity? Falls lah. Okay, so the thoracic pressure falls. Okay, and so therefore the chest expand. So this causes the vena cava and other veins near the heart to expand as well and fills with blood, and the blood will return back to the heart. So if you inhale, you increase the volume inside the thoracic cavity and the chest expand obviously, and then it causes the pressure in the thoracic cavity to fall. Same goes to the vena cava and other large vein. It causes the vein to expand and fill with blood, and more blood will return to the heart. Okay, so for the last subtopic of this chapter is we are going to look at the lymphatic system. Okay, human lymphatic system. Okay, so it says here, fluid movement in capillary beds. So the fluid movement across a capillary wall results from two opposing forces. Okay, two opposing forces, which is blood pressure and also osmotic pressure. Okay, so kita ada, So blood pressure, blood pressure tends to drive fluid out of the capillary. So this fluid is termed as interstitial fluid or the tissue fluid. So you have blood vessels, okay? Blood vessels that fills with blood. So blood comes from the blood that flows from the artery, for example. Obviously, in the artery, the blood pressure, okay, the blood pressure is high, the velocity is also high. Okay, so as the blood enters into the blood capillaries, yeah, in the blood capillaries, obviously, there will still be high blood pressure and high blood velocity compared to the blood that will enter into the vein. So this cause, okay, fluid from the blood, okay, fluid which is fluid from the blood plasma, okay, fluid from the blood plasma to enter into the extracellular fluid or interstitial fluid. Okay, interstitial fluid. It becomes interstitial fluid. Initially, the fluid is in the blood. So due to the high blood pressure, it causes the fluid in the blood to move out of the blood vessels and enter into the interstitial fluid surrounding body cells. Okay, surrounding body cells. So you do not want an accumulation of this fluid in your tissue. Okay, in your tissue. So this will cause your tissue to swell. Okay, to swell and causes and lead to edema, for example. Okay, so this excessive fluid needs to return back to your blood circulation through the lymphatic system. Okay, through the lymphatic system. So it says here blood pressure tends to drive fluid out of the capillaries. So this fluid is termed as interstitial fluid or tissue fluid. So the presence of blood protein such as albumin in the capillaries creates an osmotic pressure. Kan kita belajar ada blood proteins such as immunoglobulins, okay, albumins, okay. So this will increase the osmotic pressure, okay, the osmotic pressure in the blood capillaries, okay. So creates an osmotic pressure difference, okay, difference between the capillary interior and also in the interstitial fluid. So blood protein tend to pull fluid back into the capillaries, okay, tend to pull back the fluid back into the capillaries. Okay, so apa perbezaan, okay, darah dengan interstitial fluid? Obviously, interstitial fluid will not have any red blood cells, okay, red blood cells and also platelet, but it contains white blood cells. White blood cells can squeeze out of the porous blood capillaries. Characteristics of blood capillaries is that it is porous, so the white blood cells can slip out of the blood capillaries, okay, and also there will be leaked protein, so it bathes nearly all cells in the body. So that is so the blue area here is the interstitial fluid, okay, interstitial fluid. So alright, so here is the blood vessels, okay, the blood vessels. On this side here, okay, is the atrial end. Atrial end, sorry, okay, atrial end. So the blood that flows at the atrial end, okay, will flow with high blood pressure, okay. So the blood pressure exceeds the osmotic pressure, okay, exceeds the osmotic pressure. So therefore, fluid flows out of the capillaries into the interstitial fluid. So darah yang mengalir ke dalam blood capillaries daripada atrial end will flow with high blood pressure and causes fluid from the blood to enter into the interstitial fluid. So as you can see, here the blood pressure is 120 at the atrial end. At the venous end, at the venous end, the blood pressure is reduced. Okay, reduced, which is about 15 millimeter mercury. Okay, 15 millimeter mercury. Outside, kat luar, in the interstitial fluid, there is osmotic pressure. Okay, the osmotic pressure in the interstitial fluid is 22 millimeter mercury. Okay, 22 millimeter mercury. So tekanan darah yang tinggi, yang lebih tinggi daripada osmotic pressure yang dekat luar, so it causes fluid to move out into the interstitial fluid. Okay, but the interstitial fluid osmotic pressure is maintained dekat atrial end ke, dekat venous end ke, it is still 22 millimeter mercury. But at the venous end, because the blood pressure has dropped, which is down to 15 millimeter mercury, so the fluid in the extracellular fluid can enter into the blood capillaries. It can enter back into the blood capillaries in the joining the blood circulation. Joining the blood circulation. But this is not enough. This is not enough to make sure that there is no accumulation of excessive fluid in the interstitial fluid. So lagi satu faktor adalah the lymphatic system. Keadaan yang perbezaan blood pressure, osmotic pressure luar dan dalam blood capillary ni, kat sini, so dia akan, proses ni akan membantu excess fluid from the interstitial fluid to return back into your blood circulation. So you have another factor that also helps to remove excessive fluid in the interstitial fluid and preventing swelling, preventing edema from occurring, is the lymphatic system. It returns fluid also. So what is lymphatic system? It is a system of blood vessels and nodes separate from the circulatory system. Separate from the circulatory system. Circulatory system yang kita tengok pada specifically pada heart, blood and also blood vessels kan. Tapi lymphatic system ni juga dia ada fluid dia. The fluid is not blood, but we call it as the lymph. The lymph. And then the lymphatic system also has lymphatic vessels and also lymphatic nodes. The function of the lymphatic system is to return fluid. You do not want an accumulation of fluid in your body tissue. So this excessive fluid will return back to your blood circulation later through the lymphatic system. And then returns fluid. Proteins also kan, tadi ada protein yang manage to leak out of the blood capillaries as well, but not so much. But this protein has to return back into your blood circulation juga nanti, and also cells to the blood. So the lymphatic system consists of a network of dead end lymphatic capillaries. Kalau kita tengok the blood vessels in the circulatory system, they are continuous, from the heart into the aorta, and then into the arterioles, blood capillaries, and then venules, and then vein, and then back to the heart. It is continuous, and the blood is confined in this system. But for the lymphatic system, it does not have a continuous lymphatic vessels. So they will end in the lymphatic capillaries. Dead end lymphatic capillaries. So nampak ni, dead end lymphatic capillaries. Kat sini dia tak continuous macam blood capillaries. So dead end lymphatic capillaries, and then from the lymphatic capillaries, it enters into the lymphatic vessels. So the lymph will also flow through the nodes and then lymphatic organs. The lymphatic organs are the tonsils, spleen, and also the thymus gland. So later in chapter 7, we are going to look at the thymus and also the tonsil involved in the immune system as well. So the lymphatic system also involved in immune system as well, basically. Because one of the function of the lymph nodes is that it stores white blood cells. White blood cells. Okay, as you can see, this is a diagram to show you that the lymphatic system consists of open end lymphatic vessels, and then it has spleen kat sini. If you were to dissect a mouse, and then you go through the organs of the mouse in the abdomen area. So the spleen is just located around around the stomach, below the stomach, or around the stomach area kat situ. Dia warna dia macam merah hati macam tu. Okay, so this is the spleen. Okay, the spleen that involves is one of the organ for the lymphatic system. And then you have the lymph vessels, the lymph vessels, lymph capillaries, and then you have kat sini is the right lymphatic ducts. Okay, right lymphatic ducts, and then kat sini kita ada the thoracic ducts. So apa fungsi right lymphatic ducts and also the thoracic duct is to return fluid from in the lymph, back into your blood circulation. So dia akan masuk dekat area ni, kan? Thoracic duct enters a vein kat sini. Subclavian vein we call it. Okay, right and left subclavian vein. So the lymph will join back to your blood circulation, okay, by entering in this subclavian vein through the right lymphatic ducts and also the thoracic ducts. So as you can see, this subclavian veins is it later enters into your main blood vessels here, which is the if I'm not mistaken here, it is the superior vena cava. Betul lah, superior vena cava. That is into the superior vena cava that enters into the right atrium. Okay. So these are and then another organs of the lymphatic system. You have the thymus lah, kan? So the thymus is located just above the heart. Okay, so just it is near the heart. Okay, so these are the functions of the lymphatic system. Okay, so you have to know the function of the lymphatic system. One is to return excess interstitial fluid to the bloodstream. Okay, daripada lymphatic ducts and also thoracic duct, they akan join. The lymph will enter into the subclavian veins. Okay, so and then the second function of the lymphatic system is to transport fat. Okay, transport fat from the small intestine to the bloodstream. So kalau belajar dulu dalam kat sekolah dulu dalam chapter maybe digestive system, the small intestine, it has microvilli, right? It has villi. It has villus. Okay, so small intestine, the permukaan dia it is highly folded, right? Okay, so and then dia akan ada surrounded by blood capillaries, kan? Blood capillaries is to absorb nutrients such as glucose, amino acids, tapi lemak, fats, okay, fats from the lumen of the small intestine, it cannot enters into the blood capillaries. Okay, it cannot enters into the blood capillaries due to its large size. So this fats molecule, okay, will enter into another system, which is the lymphatic system. Kalau saya tak silap, kat sini dia ada satu vessels, nama dia check balik lactil, kan? So dia akan masuk dalam ni. So this is the vessels that will transport fat through the lymphatic system. Okay, lymphatic system. Transport fat from the small intestine to the bloodstream. So dia akan pergi kepada liver, tak silap saya dulu, kan? It enters to the liver first. Okay, before it joins, before it enters into the bloodstream. So, and then third, filters aged blood cells and other debris from the blood. Okay, so ini filters aged blood cells and other debris from the blood. And then last, defends the body by exposing bacteria and also viruses to lymphocyte and macrophage. As I said before, so you have white blood cells such as lymphocyte and macrophage that resides, okay, in the lymph nodes. Okay, so as the lymph flows through the lymph node, it filters any bacteria or viruses in the lymph. Okay, so lymph capillaries. So nampak kat sini kan, so yang blood vessels warna merah tu is the arteriole. So the blood flows with high blood velocity, high blood pressure, and then you have excessive fluid enters into the interstitial fluid. So this excessive fluid in the interstitial fluid will return back into your blood circulation through the lymphatic system. So dia akan masuk dulu through the lymphatic capillaries, the dead end lymphatic capillaries. Okay, dead end lymphatic capillaries. Okay, so as you can see, the structure of lymphatic capillaries, it is one cell thick. Okay, macam blood capillaries also, it is also one cell thick. But as you can see, the cell lining the lymphatic capillaries, it is slightly overlap. Ada macam ruang, it is slightly overlap, so that the excessive interstitial fluid can enter into the lymphatic capillaries. Okay, the lymph capillaries. So this fluid that enters into the lymphatic capillaries now is known as lymph. Okay, asalnya excessive fluid itu adalah daripada interstitial fluid yang keluar daripada aliran darah due to apa? High blood pressure from the atrial end. Okay, so this fluid will enter into the lymphatic capillaries and becomes lymph. Okay, lymph, right? Okay, so it says here, number 1, the first box here. So pressure forces fluid from the plasma at the atrial end of the blood capillaries. So maybe you can add in this box blood pressure. Okay, so that it is clear for you. Pressure apa kan? So blood pressure. So blood pressure forces fluid from the plasma at the atrial end of the capillary network. Second, interstitial fluid enters the lymph vessels and the venous portion of the capillaries. So ada dua cara untuk this excess fluid in the interstitial fluid to return back into your blood circulation. Satu tadi daripada apa? Yang masuk ke venous end. Okay, venous end. Yang mana osmotic pressure is higher, okay, in the interstitial fluid compared to the blood pressure in the venous end. Tadi kan osmotic pressure 22 mm mercury. Kalau blood pressure in the venous end, it is 15. Okay, so 22 versus 15, obviously the 22 is higher compared to 15. So this fluid will enter from interstitial fluid back into your blood circulation. The second factor that helps in the return of the excessive fluid is through the lymphatic system. Okay, lymphatic system. So the fluid enters into the lymphatic capillaries to form the lymph. Okay, two factors, okay, that helps in the return of fluid back into your blood circulation. Okay. Okay, so lymphatic system, excess fluid, it says here, that is drained into the lymphatic capillaries is now known as the lymph. Okay, so the lymph in the lymphatic capillaries later merges with the lymph vessels. Macam blood vessels juga lah kan. Kita ada blood capillaries, and then kita ada blood vessels. Okay, so sama juga. Kalau untuk lymphatic system, we have lymphatic capillaries that later merges with lymph vessels. Lymph vessels, obviously they have a larger diameter. Okay, so the the walls of the lymphatic capillaries are one cell thick. Tadi kita dah tengok kan, it is one cell thick. It is made up of endothelial cells and it is slightly overlap. Okay, it is slightly overlap. Supaya the overlapping structure of the arrangement of the endothelial cells allows fluid to be able to enter into the lymphatic capillaries. If you see the arrangement or the overlapping of the endothelial cells, it only allows the interstitial fluid to enter. Dia tak boleh nak keluar. Keluar tak boleh. Only enters. Okay, only enter into the lymphatic capillaries. So the lymphatic system preserves fluid balance, okay, in the body by continually taking up excess fluid, which is about 10% of the interstitial fluid, by entering into the lymphatic capillaries and later to be returned to the blood circulation. Okay, yang tadi kita tengok dari lymph that flows into the lymphatic vessels, dia akan end up dekat bahagian kiri dan kanan bahu awak tu. So the lymph will enter into the mana tadi right lymphatic ducts. Okay, satu, and then second thoracic duct. Okay, so this enters into the right subclavian vein. Vein dah blood vessels dah kan? Okay, thoracic duct into the left. Okay, subclavian vein. Okay, vein is the blood vessels. Okay, so the lymph will join the blood circulation at this point. Okay, at this point. So this then will merge or enters into the superior vena cava. Okay, superior vena cava before it enters into the heart chamber, which is the right atrium. Okay. Okay, so next is the movement of lymph from tissue to the heart is aided by. Okay, so ini sama juga macam tadi yang venous return. Point dia lebih kurang Venous return tadi kan, blood that flows in the vein with low blood pressure and low velocity. So dia ada valve juga tadi kan, dia ada respiratory movement, skeletal movement. So sama juga dengan movement of lymph, because the lymph flows with low blood pressure and low pressure and velocity, and low pressure and velocity. So there must be some factors to help or to aid in the movement of the lymph along the lymphatic vessels. Okay, so movement of lymph from tissues to the heart is aided by the presence of valve. Okay, valves in the lymph, in the lymphatic vessels, Okay, so nampak ni, you can see there is presence of valve. Okay, valve that opens as the lymph flows forward. Okay, and then kita tengok ni. Okay, the lymph can only flow in one direction due to the presence of the valve. Okay, and then second is pressure gradient. Okay, pressure gradient, which is hydrostatic pressure. So the lymph flows down the pressure gradient. So daripada, kalau kita tengok kat sini, obviously the pressure in the blood pressure is high. Itu yang menyebabkan terhasilnya interstitial fluid. Okay, terhasilnya interstitial fluid. So this interstitial fluid, you do not want the interstitial fluid to accumulate in your body tissue. Okay, in your tissue fluid. So it returns the excessive fluid into the lymphatic capillaries. Okay, so this lymphatic interstitial fluid enters into the lymph capillaries to become lymph. Okay, and then flows into the lymph veins and then lymph ducts and then join into the large circulatory veins. So from the lymphatic capillaries until it enters into the vein, the flow, the pressure will flow from high pressure to low pressure. Okay, high pressure to low pressure itu yang akan push the fluid forward. Okay, the pressure of the fluid from high to low. Alright. So and then with the third factor is the rhythmic contraction of the vessel wall. Okay, so rhythmic contraction of vessel's wall helps draw fluid into the lymphatic vessels as well. Okay, so and then the fourth factor is respiratory movement and also skeletal muscle. Okay, respiratory movement and skeletal muscle contraction that squeezes lymph through the vessels until it reaches the heart. Okay, so those are the factors that help in the movement of lymph. Okay, until it joins with the blood circulation that joins with the subclavian veins tu tadi lah. Okay, so we are going to look at one of the organs, okay, of the lymphatic system is the lymph nodes. Okay, lymph nodes. So it says here, okay, a strategic location, lymph veins enters lymph nodes. Okay, so ada banyak point yang akan ada lymph nodes. So the lymph node contains connective tissue filled with leukocytes. Okay, lymph nodes are filled with white blood cells, the leukocytes. So the structure of the lymph nodes, it is small. Okay, small encapsulated organs. It is about 2.5 centimeter, and the shape of the lymph node is bean shaped. Okay, bean shaped macam ni. Alright. So located along the pathway of the lymphatic vessels. Okay, so as the lymph flows through the vessels, dia akan jumpa dengan lymph nodes. Bila dia mengalir lagi, jumpa dengan lymph nodes. Okay, throughout the lymphatic system, so there are many lymph nodes. So they are widely distributed throughout the body, especially in this region. Okay, the neck, the armpit, and also groin. Okay, so function of the lymph nodes is to serve as filters. Kenapa filter? Sebab dia ada white blood cell. Filter from what? From pathogen, for example. Okay, so filter the lymph as it slowly passes through. So when the body is fighting an infection, okay, you are infected by certain virus, for example, or certain bacteria, foreign substance that enters into your blood and gets into your lymph as well. Okay, so as the lymph that contains all these pathogen will pass through the lymph node that has the white blood cells. Okay, so when the body is fighting an infection, lymphocyte will multiply rapidly. Okay, when you are infected with certain virus, so the lymphocyte will multiply rapidly. So adalah mechanism dia yang kita akan tengok nanti masa chapter 7. And then the lymph nodes become swollen and enlarged and become tender. Okay, keras kat situ. So and may be felt as hard little nodes below the skin. So kalau awak tengah demam ke, cubalah rasa bawah ketiak ke, kan, dekat neck area you have a swollen nodes. Okay, so that indicates that your body is fighting an infection because the lymph nodes is filled up with white blood cells. Okay, and then it also functions to trap circulating cancer cells. Alright, so that is the lymph nodes. Next is the lymph ducts. Okay, lymph ducts. So lymph vessels that leave the lymph nodes conduct lymph nodes towards lymphatic ducts at the shoulder region. Bahagian yang shoulder yang saya explain tadi tu, kan. So the lymphatic vessels flows into one of the two lymphatic ducts. So tadi kita ada right lymphatic ducts and kita ada left or thoracic duct. So samalah, you can either use as left thoracic duct or left lymphatic ducts or thoracic duct, sama je. Okay, untuk yang first, from the right lymphatic ducts, So the lymph is drained into the right subclavian vein. So ini dah masuk kepada blood circulation. Okay, it enters into the blood circulation. Once the lymph enters into the right subclavian vein, so the right lymph ducts, okay, will drain the lymph coming from the right side of the head, neck, and also thorax. If you look at here, so you have here is the right subclavian ducts, okay, sorry, right lymphatic ducts. So the lymph coming from the right side of the head, okay, the right side of the neck and also thorax, can neck, and also in this region here, all the lymph will return back to your blood circulation to right lymphatic ducts and enter into the right subclavian vein. Okay, so the rest from the left side of the body, okay, so all this region here, so the lymph will enter into the left lymphatic ducts. Saya slashkan lah, left or thoracic duct, so it enters into the right subclavian vein. So all these will enter back into your blood circulation, then enter into the superior vena cava, kan, vena cava, which is then enters into the heart chamber, which is the right atrium. Okay, right atrium. Okay, so body, both of the subclavian veins are near the heart. Okay, so therefore the lymphatic ducts drain the lymph into the subclavian veins on each side of the body that returns the fluid into the blood. Okay. Okay, so other lymphatic organs, you have the tonsil, thymus, and also spleen. Okay, so the function, what is tonsil? Masses of lymph tissues under the lining of the oral cavity and also throat. So the function of the tonsil is to protect the respiratory system from infection. So by destroying bacteria and other foreign agent that enters the body through mouth and nose. Sorry, as you breathe, or as you eat, whatever, right? So all this, the air outside is contaminated with virus, pollutant, and all that. So this will get filtered by the tonsil. Okay, and then thymus, immature lymphocyte. Sorry, thymus adalah organ, dia duduk atas jantung tu. So it is the place where immature lymphocyte differentiate into T lymphocyte. Okay, so lymphocyte is one of the type of white blood cell. White blood cell, kan, terbahagi kepada yang neutrophil, eosinophil, itu adalah leukocytes. Okay, the other group are the lymphocyte. Lymphocyte kita ada B cell, T cell, kan. So B cell, T cell ni yang terlibat kepada specific mechanism in fighting specific pathogen. Okay, specific pathogen. So the lymphocyte, the action is more specific. Okay, more specific in fighting certain virus. Okay. And then spleen, the function of the spleen is to filter the blood, prevent infection by blood-borne antigen. Okay, so those are the three organs of the lymphatic system. As you can see, the lymphatic system has role in the immunity. Okay, in immunity, in immune system. Okay, so it says in this diagram, it shows you the location of the lymphatic organ. So the location of the tonsil, you should know, kan, dekat area sini. And then thymus, okay, thymus is here, and then spleen is here. Okay, and spreading throughout the body, you have many lymph nodes. Okay. So in this table, it shows you the next page, the next slide. Here it shows you the difference between blood and also lymph. You should know what is the difference. Okay, what are the difference between blood and also lymph? Okay, so blood, obviously it is red in color as red blood cells are present. Okay, red in color as red blood cells are present. So and then lymph, it is colorless because the red blood cells cannot pass through the blood capillaries. Walaupun blood capillaries it is porous, but the pore will not allow red blood cells to move out of the blood capillaries and enters your interstitial fluid. Tak boleh. Okay, it is the red blood cells, it is large in size, so therefore there is no red blood cells in the interstitial fluid, and therefore there is no red blood cells in the lymph. Okay, it is colorless. And then blood circulate in the blood vessels. Okay, and then for the lymph circulate in the lymphatic vessels. So kita ada blood vessels, artery, vein, blood capillaries. Kalau lymphatic vessels, kita ada lymphatic vessels lah, lymphatic vessels, and also that flows the lymph through the lymph nodes. Okay, and then next, for blood, its plasma has more protein and nutritive substances, and as for lymph, its plasma has less protein and nutritive substances. Okay, kenapa kalau blood ni dia ada more protein? Sebab the size of the protein is large, so most of the protein will maintain inside your blood circulation, tapi ada juga yang manage to leak out, okay, and enters into the interstitial fluid and end up in the lymph. Okay, and then next, for blood, amount of carbon dioxide and metabolic waste is normal. Okay, and then for lymph, amount of carbon dioxide and metabolic waste is higher. Alright, so that is the difference. And then for the last point, for blood clots quickly. Okay, blood will clots quickly due to the presence of fibrinogen, and then lymph clots slowly due to the presence of less fibrinogen. Ada fibrinogen, but the presence is less. Okay, and then for the last subtopic of this chapter is we are going to look at some diseases related to the lymphatic system. Okay, so the first one is lymphoma. So it is any neoplasm or tumor of the lymphoid tissues whether benign or malignant. Okay, so it is a type of tumor. Okay, tumor of the lymphoid tissue. And then lymphedema is where excess interstitial fluid in the subcutaneous tissue. So you have interstitial fluid accumulating in your tissue fluid. Okay, so it can occur anywhere in the body, but more common in the leg and feet. So kalau if you are sitting for too long, for example, so there is a tendency for the accumulation of excessive interstitial fluid. Okay, that is kalau normal lah if you are sitting for too long, for example, but this is a disease which is a lymphedema, accumulation of tissue fluid, especially at the leg area. Okay, so the effects is that it can impair tissue function since excess fluid in the interstitial space increases the distance for diffusion of nutrients and oxygen between blood and cells. Okay, so as your feet, for example, enlarge, it is filled with excessive interstitial fluid, so dia menyukarkan, keadaan tu menyukarkan the exchange of substances, oxygen, nutrients to your body cells, okay, of your body tissue. Okay, so disruption in the movement of lymph can cause edema, which is a condition of where there is swelling. Okay, swelling resulting from excessive accumulation of fluid in the tissue. So, for example, is the is this disease, which is elephantiasis. So due to the presence of parasitic worms that lodged inside lymph vessels. Okay, so these parasitic worms will block the flow of the lymph, and then results in extremely swollen limbs to other body parts. As you can see, they does start this person legs is starting to get darkened, so the cells starting to receive, okay, less nutrients, less oxygen, okay, from the blood. Okay, so this is a diagram to show you the infection that causes the elephantiasis. Okay, so it is from the parasite, the host is a mosquito. Okay, a mosquito that carries the parasite bite this person, and then the parasite gets into the lymphatic capillaries, lymphatic vessels of this person, and block the flow of the lymph. Okay, the flow of the lymph. So itulah daripada gigit nyamuk je kat situ, that carries the parasite. Habis. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 6. So do you have any question?